Hello everyone, we're going to continue our lectures by a comparison between simple interest and a new type of interest called compound interest. So we're going to consider a principal of $4,000. Let's say you have saved $4,000 and you want to open a bank account, an investment account. So the principal that you're using is $4,000 in the year 2020, let's say. And the rate of interest we are going to be using is, let's say, 12%. Okay? 12% is the rate of interest, we assume. So the interest will be calculated as I equals PRT and 4,000 times 0.12 times 1 year, because the investment is for 1 year. You want to know how much you're going to earn after 1 year. So if you multiply, so you can use your calculators and multiply 4,000 by 0.12, which is 12%, expressed as a decimal, and that gives you $480. Okay, so this is the amount of interest that the bank has to pay you at the end of the first year, because you left the money in the account for 1 year. So what is the accumulated interest after 1 year? It's going to be $480. Okay. Now for the second year, again, the principal was $4,000. So you would receive a simple interest of exactly the same amount, because principal has not changed. It's $4,000. Rate of interest, we assume that it's going to remain the same. And the number of year, the second year still is 1 year. Still, it has 365 days. So it's going to be $480. So you received $480 at the end of the first year, and now you're receiving another $480 exactly at the end of the second year. So that means you have received, or you have accumulated, $960 after 2 years. So at the end of the second year, if somebody says how much interest you received, you're going to say, well, I received $960 in interest, $480 at the end of the first year, and $480 at the end of the second year. So in total, at the end of the second year, after 2 years of investing at the bank, you have received an accumulated interest of $960. Good for you. Now, for the third year. So this is 2021. Now we go to 2022. So in 2022, again, the principal is 4,000. That's the initial amount of money you started your investment with. And every year you're earning $480, with the assumption that the rate of interest has not changed. So if I add another $480 to what you had accumulated before, so 960 plus 480, that would be $1,440. So we added a 480 there, and now we added another 480 here. So every year you are earning $480 simple interest. So the fourth year, and we assume that's the last year of your investment, which is 2023. Again, the principal is 4,000, and the amount of interest would be $480. It's a fixed amount every year you receive. And if I add another 480 to the accumulated interest, so you will have $1,920 in interest. So every time the interest that you earn at the end of the year increases by a fixed amount of $480. This is called a simple interest amount. Okay. Now there's another type of interest which works a little bit different. The first year, we assume the same $4,000. That's your principal, and again, the amount of interest would be PRT. So if we assume the same rate of interest and same number of years, you will earn $480, no questions asked. So this is what happens at the end of the first year. Okay. Now, the thing is that the second year, 2021, at the beginning of the second year, how much money do you actually have in your account? Well, you had $4,000. That money didn't go anywhere. But now, watch this. You have earned another $480. So right now, in your bank account, on the first day of the second year, you not only have the principal of $4,000, but also you have an interest of $480. You didn't put that money in your pocket and walk away. That money still stays in the account. So your principal now is a bigger principal compared to the principal at the beginning of the year. So that means that you have a new principal, which is actually 4,000 plus the $480, which is still sitting in your account, and that will be $4,480. And this is a bigger principal compared to the smaller principal of 4,000. So you deserve earning interest not only on the principal of $4,000, but also earning interest on the amount of interest of $480. In other words, you are earning interest on interest, not only earning interest on the principal as it was the case for the simple interest. So whenever interest is earned on interest, it is said that interest compounds. And this type of interest is called compound interest. So for the second year calculation, I'm not going to use the principal of $4,000 because that is actually not the principal, because the new principal is $4,480. So when I'm writing the formula I equals PRT, this P is the new principal, not the old one. So I go $4,480 times the rate of interest times the second year. So 4,480 times 0.12 for 1 year, it's going to be $537.60. See, this is the amount of interest I will receive after 1 year, which is the second year of the investment. So at the end of the first year of investment, we received $480. Now we have received $537.60. We received more because obviously this is because we earned interest on interest as well as earning interest on the principal. So I'm going to add this with 480, and now we have $1,017.60. That will be the accumulated interest. So I'm adding $537.60. So see, when you're comparing with the simple interest mechanism over there, every year you used to accumulate an interest of $480, which was a fixed amount. But here you see that instead of $480, you earn more in interest. It's $537.60. Now, imagine what happens in the next year. You had $4,000. That was the principal. That doesn't change. But on top of that, how much interest have you accumulated now? You have accumulated $1,017.60. And this money is still sitting in the account. So not only you have 4,000, but also you have this amount. Add them up. That would be the new principal. So $4,480 was the previous principal. And now we added $537.60. So this would be how much? 4,480 plus 537.60. And that gives you $5,017.60. In other words, $4,000 principal plus the accumulated interest. That would be $5,017.60. Now, this is the new principal, which has to be used as a basis for the calculation of interest for the beginning of the third year. So we're going to go again. Interest equals the new principal, okay, times the rate of interest times 1 year. So you do the math, times 0.12, and it becomes $602.11. We always round to the nearest cent always 2 digits after decimal point when you talk about any kind of money. So you see that at the end of the third year, the amount of interest earned is $602.11. It's not $537.60, or it's not $480, which you received at the end of the first year. So now the accumulated interest would be whatever you had before plus this new amount of interest. So 1017.60 plus 602.11, and that gives you $1,619.71. That is the accumulated interest at the end of the third year. So again, we add that with the principal of $4,000 we had before, or you may add 5,017.60 with the amount of interest that you earned, 602.11. It's going to give you $5,619.71. Okay. So we added the previous principal, 5,017.6, plus the amount of interest we received at the end of the third year, 602.11, and that gives us $5,619.71. So this is the new principal that has to be used to calculate the amount of interest at the beginning of the fourth year of the investment. So again, we go I equals PRT, but this P is supposed to be the new principal. So I go 5,619.71 times 1 times the rate of interest, 12%. And when you do the math, use your calculator, you get $674.37. Okay, so this has to be added to the previous interest we had received. So if I add this with 1,619.71 I have before, now we have $2,294.08. Okay, so when you're comparing this amount I put in a box with what you had before in simple interest, you see that you are earning more money in interest. After 4 years, with the same principal of $4,000, with the same rate of interest, but simple interest, you received $1,920 in interest. But with this new mechanism of calculating the interest, known as compound interest, after 4 years, with the same principal of $4,000, with the same rate of interest, you earned $2,294.08. So this is, I can tell you actually how much more it is. It's not a difficult subtraction. So $374. You have $374 more in your pocket, and you didn't do nothing. You didn't increase the principal. You didn't change your bank or the rate of interest. All the conditions for the two investments is absolutely the same, except that the first one was a simple interest calculation. The second was compound interest calculation. So we see that compound interest, that actually it's better. So if you go to bank today and you want to open a bank account, and the bank clerk is asking you what type of account you want to open, do you want to open simple interest account or compound interest account? At least now you know what the answer is. You are going to say that you want to open compound interest. They will realize that you're a knowledgeable person, and this way you will earn more money in interest compared to simple interest situation. Now the question is there a magical formula that can give us this final answer in one shot? Because as you saw, these calculations are perhaps not difficult, but they're absolutely time consuming. So every time you want to do calculations, you want to find the final amount in a bank account, you don't go through all these calculations. You want to just quickly find the answer, and the answer is yes, actually. There is a magical formula. It's known as compound interest formula that you can use to directly calculate this number and get the answer with like in like few seconds, basically. Okay, and perhaps I better talk about this magical formula in the next lecture. Okay, so stay tuned and good luck.